Good evening and thank you for joining us. The worsening overdose crisis in Thunder Bay recently prompted City Council to advocate for greater harm reduction measures from upper levels of government.
One policy could see simple drug possession decriminalized, but local leaders recognize that won't happen overnight. Vasilios Bellos joins us live in studio with the details. Vasilios?
Thanks, Riley. Decriminalization is a discussion being had by all levels of government across the nation, with a 3-year pilot project in BC kicking off about a month ago. It's meant to connect users to addiction supports rather than prison time, but there may be a need for more services if it ever took effect in Thunder Bay. Opioid-related deaths across the city have skyrocketed, rising from 16 in 2008 to 122 in 2021. In response, City Council voted unanimously to adopt a 4-pillar campaign centered around lobbying higher levels of government to adopt harm reduction responses. Included is declaring a drug poisoning crisis, expanding harm reduction and treatment practices, and decriminalizing possession of drugs for personal use. Drug strategy lead Cynthia Olson explains the benefits of these pillars.
What it can do is really reduce stigma, reduce barriers to accessing harm reduction and treatment services in the community. And so part of those other recommendations are, enhanced and immediate scale up of addiction and mental health services, evidence-based harm reduction services, as well as long-term and sustainable funding for upstream prevention.
Drug decriminalization, which is not the same as legalization, is envisioned as a way of directing users to addiction treatment and services rather than criminal charges. Olson believes this would be highly effective, though it's not possible in Thunder Bay without the correct resources.
We know that we have gaps in addiction and mental health services. We know we have gaps for individuals to meet their social determinants of health. One of our goals with decriminalization is reducing stigma and increasing access to services. If they're not there, then that could still be problematic.
British Columbia recently received a federal exemption allowing them to carry out a drug decriminalization pilot project. Acting Police Chief Dan Taddeo says the service is open to decriminalization, but says considering Thunder Bay's severe issues, they'll need more government support if it is to be effective.
I cannot accept something on a broad brush approach if it's happening in another province or even happening in Ontario, unless this city gets what is needed based on our statistics. The statistics cannot be ignored anymore. So I look forward to that support coming from the government.
Olson says there's no timelines or confirmation a decriminalization approach will be taken on by the city, though they'll be keeping an eye on how the BC pilot project proceeds. Vasilios Bellos, TVT News.
The search continues for a small airplane that went missing en route to Admatung First Nation on Tuesday afternoon. 2 people were confirmed to have been on board the ZAM Air Services flight when it left the Nakina Airport. The Rescue Coordination Center, Trenton, dispatched a Hercules aircraft from Winnipeg just after 2:30 Tuesday, when the missing plane was reported as overdue. The search for the Cessna 208 and its 2 occupants has expanded since that time, with a number of other aircraft joining in the effort. The Air Task Force is based here in Thunder Bay.
So last night, a CC-130 Hercules from the Royal Canadian Air Force conducted a search at night for this missing Cessna 208, conducting both visual and electronic searches. By electronic searches, I mean that we're looking or trying to hear for like an emergency locator beacon or anything else like that that might have been on board. So obviously we didn't have any success last night, and the search continues today.
According to Reed, search conditions have remained favorable throughout the day. The primary search has continued to focus on the missing plane's planned route. Meanwhile, in Admatung, a small group of community members headed out by snowmobile to conduct a ground search near the First Nation.
Anishinaabe Grand Chief Derek Fox is responding to his sudden suspension by the NAN Executive Council earlier this week. He's calling for a snap election to be called by the 49 chiefs for a potential show of confidence in his leadership. Very few details have been released so far on the reasons for Fox's suspension. NAN has confirmed only that there's an internal investigation of alleged violations of the NAN Executive Council Code of Conduct. The Executive Council includes the 3 deputy Grand Chiefs. Today on social media, Fox released a statement saying, quote, I have been wrongfully and possibly be defamed by statements that are untrue. I've asked the NAN chiefs to call for an election of the entire executive. I propose an election be held in the next 60 to 90 days. The future of NAN is critically important and we can't be distracted from this. I trust the chiefs to resolve this. Fox was elected Grand Chief in August of 2021 and has confirmed he would run again if an election is called. NAN officials declined to comment on Fox's statement or the likelihood that a new election will be held.
In an effort to clear the air regarding the proposed Waasigan transmission line project, Hydro One held an open house in Kaministiquia this afternoon.
The utility hoped to answer any concerns local residents have about the preferred route for the new high-voltage power line. As Kurt Black reports, while locals were pleased to have Hydro One come and listen, some questioned why it took so long.
Ever since its announcement, the Waasigan transmission line project has met plenty of opposition from those in the Kaministiquia area, which is why Hydro One representatives were back in the community Thursday for an open house, where a number of experts from various areas of the project were on hand to answer questions or concerned about the planned route, which currently crosses right over some 200 properties and homes. Sunny Karanakaran, Director of Strategic Project Delivery for Hydro One, says the feedback they continue to receive from the community is essential in finding a remedy that appeases both sides.
The details that we're able to get into in the actual committees and so forth will allow us to actually make the refinements that are necessary, right? And find like a collaborative solution that's going to work for the residents as well as Hydro One.
Karanakaran adds that they will be meeting with a local resident committee for the first time Friday morning to get a better grasp on how the two sides can work together. But while the residents we spoke to were pleased that Hydro One has come to the table, they are left wondering why it took so long.
We're a little late into the game, but we're in the game, and we've done a lot of homework. Our committee here has done a lot of work behind the scenes. I think they have some good viable alternatives, so let's see where it all goes, and that's where we'd like to see it go. So we're not one of stopping progress, but we still want our quality of life at the end of the day.
They mentioned they've talked to 1,000 people and they've had 10 open houses. Not once did they come to one of the most impacted communities, to our hall, to do an open house. I am not sure how to look at that in any other way but to see it as calculated.
Michelle Hamer, one of the main organizers of the Neighbors on the Line group, believes if Hydro One truly wants to work with the community, they should put a hold on any further real estate acquisitions until a route can be agreed on.
Until they say there's a moratorium on real estate acquisition and they're actually going to be talking about moving the line, I don't see that we're going to have any type of resolution.
The two sides will meet again Friday morning at 10 a.m. back at the Kaministiquia Community Center. Kurt Black, TBT News.
Registered nurses across Ontario, including here in Thunder Bay, hosted rallies today to drum up public support in their contract dispute with the Ontario Hospital Association. The Ontario Nurses Association is looking for more workers, better care, and a significant wage hike.
When I say better, you say wages. Better. Wages. Better. Wages.
Dozens of members of ONA Local 73 marched along Memorial Avenue this afternoon to show support for their bargaining team in Toronto during the final day of negotiations. The union says the virtual freeze on wages over the past few years, caused by the Ford government's Bill 124, has prompted many nurses to quit the profession, and those who remain are burning out from the increased workload.
We have not had a cost of living wage increase in 10 years. And so with that, the staffing shortages have begun to happen. And then add the pandemic in there, we've had masses of nurses leaving the profession, leaving the province to work elsewhere. And because of this massive decrease in nursing, we have increased workloads.
We're concerned because we need enough nurses to be able to give adequate care to our patients. We care for our patients. So, we really are in need of more nurses.
ONA Local 73 represents about 1,100 registered nurses in Thunder Bay and the surrounding area.
Hundreds of nurses and supporters also gathered in Toronto today.
The rally began outside a hotel where mediated talks were being held. Protesters then made their way to Queen's Park. Siobhan Morris reports.
Nurses as far as the eye could see, marching through the streets of downtown Toronto demanding more.
We need to be respected, and there needs to be an investment into nursing and our other healthcare professionals, but in our public system.
Their message blasted to negotiators working with a mediator on a collective agreement for hospital nurses.
A fair contract that enable us as nurses to provide better care with adequate staffing and providing us better wages will enable us to do that.
Wages stifled by Bill 124, which has capped wage increases at 1% over the last 3 years, is a central issue. With pay held down, nurses say their work lives are getting worse.
Mighty, mighty nurses!
That message shared with those in political power.
We just want the government to understand that we are working really hard and we deserve so much better.
Being in this crowd brought Rachel Talbot to tears of anger and frustration.
I had to go on a stress leave. It's taken a toll on my mental health. I went through a depression. My family had to go through it with me. It's the government's treatment, management's treatment. Enough is enough.
For nurses with decades of experience, heavy workloads are speeding up their retirement.
Short of staff, not enough, cannot provide proper patient care. It's just what's getting too stressful.
Inside the hospitals where these nurses work,
we're short OR nurses, we're short inpatient nurses.
And there's hope a new contract will improve wages and working conditions enough
so that we can retain our nurses and that people aren't going to keep leaving, because people are leaving to do travel nursing and I don't blame them.
When you want to negotiate, you talk to those who have the power.
After a rally on the grounds of Queen's Park, nurses say they will be back.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting there. Well, Lakehead University students held a rally of their own today.
The students gathered in front of the on-campus RBC branch to protest the bank's fossil fuel financing and its presence on LU property. Jess Clement reports.
Hey, ho, ho! Fossil funding's got to go, ho, ho! Hey, hey! RBC must start today!
The protest was organized and attended by various clubs throughout Lakehead University, including Fossil Free Lakehead, LU's Sustainability Initiative, and the Lakehead Socialist Club in collaboration with Banking for a Better Future. They're joining students from 11 other universities across Canada to call on RBC to stop funding fossil fuel projects, including the Coastal GasLink pipeline, and driving the climate crisis. Second-year student Mackenzie Barnett says RBC has put billions into fossil fuel funding and is the largest funder in the country.
We just want everyone to know that while RBC sort of says that they stand for students' futures and they say they stand for a green future, they're actually right now constructing more and more pipelines. And a lot of those pipelines are also being constructed on Indigenous land, and there hasn't been proper consent from Indigenous people. And we're really concerned about this as students also, because RBC is now our kind of official bank.
Protest co-organizer Chris Armiento says if RBC refuses to divest, they want to see LU and LUSU cut its ties with the institution.
Lakehead's been pretty cooperative. They've taken their time, and we've definitely had to push them. But with the divestment movement, where we were trying to get Lakehead to do the same and divest their holdings in fossil fuels, it took a while. I believe it was 7 years before they committed to actually doing it. But they have committed to being climate leaders.
International student Lisanne Dardivet says while she's not from Canada, she sees the campus protests as a global movement.
We are citizens from the same world. So, either in Canada, in France, Germany, Mexico, Costa Rica, whatever, we are here in the same world. We live the same fight.
Your investment's killing me.
Banks, let's discuss.
Your investment's killing us.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Police and fire rescue crews responded to a blaze on the city's south side this morning that could turn out to be an arson case. Police were originally called at around 7:30 to a former business near the corner of May Street and Victoria Avenue. Officers observed signs of a fire, and Thunder Bay Fire Rescue was called in. Fire crews entered the building and found heavy smoke inside. The fire was located near the rear of the building and quickly extinguished. No occupants were found inside the building, which had to be ventilated. City police took control of the scene, and a police spokesperson says arson can't be ruled out at this time. A fire marshal's investigator came to the scene today. There's no word yet on the cause of the fire.
The second biggest musical ensemble in Thunder Bay is getting ready for a big show this weekend. The 20-piece Roy Curran Big Band is presenting The Magic of Miller, which brings Glenn Miller's music back to life. The Roy Curran Band has a storied history in Thunder Bay, playing music as a group for the past 70 years. The band has been putting on a 4-part concert series for the past 3 years. The latest concert goes this Saturday, featuring classics from the big band legend, whose popularity peaked during the Second World War. Miller's plane disappeared in 1944 on a flight from England to Paris while on his way to a concert. Artistic director Ted Viant says even though Miller's life was cut short, his music will live on forever.
I think a lot of people know this music, they just don't know maybe where they know it from. Tunes like In the Mood and Pennsylvania 65000 that are really worth listening to. They're great music to listen to. A lot of people have to dance to it. This is not a dance though. But I think people will recognize it even if they don't know why they recognize it.
The Roy Curran Big Band will hit the stage at the Da Vinci Center on Saturday at 7:30. Tickets are on sale at the Music World Academy on Simpson Street.
Hundreds of cross-country skiers will hit the Sleeping Giant trails again this weekend for the 44th annual Sleeping Giant Loppet, the first one since the pandemic. The skiing festival brings together large numbers of skiers from all over the region, as well as the United States. To celebrate the end of the cross-country season, there are multiple events with distances for skiers of all levels and abilities, including the 8-kilometer mini Loppet for families and kids, the more relaxed and scenic 35-kilometer tour, and the 50-kilometer route, which challenges even the top athletes. All participating skiers are asked to be on site before 9:25 a.m. on Saturday, and Loppet coordinator Peter Gallagher has some advice for those coming out.
Go early. The traffic, bottles up, so it's about an hour and 15 minutes drive there in the best of conditions, but go a little bit earlier than that. I think just have a great time, get a chance. If we've been away for 2 years to connect with your friends that you haven't seen for a while skiing, so that's the biggest hope.
And there's still time to register. Late registrations are in person at the Camview Nordic Center from 3 to 8 p.m. on Friday, and there are no race day registrations.
Well, Fiona, I would imagine there are a lot of skiers hoping for some nice weather this weekend for the Loppet. What do we have in store for them?
Things are looking pretty good. We're not going to be stuck in the middle of a snowstorm, and any temperatures that allow the snow to stay somewhat solid is probably a good thing. Last night certainly helped. It was cold last night. In fact, a little bit cooler than was expected. A low of -21 and wind chills hitting -28. We did warm up to a high of -5. And a wind chill of -11, winds very, very light, almost completely calm up to just 15 kilometers per hour. Now to the west, there's a fair amount of cloud cover. It was definitely a cold night with wind chills or temperatures hitting -27 from Fort Frances all the way through to Red Lake. But at this hour, they're at -2 in the Fort, -6 in Kenora, -4 in Dryden and Red Lake. Under mostly cloudy skies, wind chills are ranging from about -8 to -11. A little cooler to the east into Armstrong at -11, Greenstone -8, and winds are completely calm in Greenstone, so they're enjoying that because wind chills hit -34 last night, so they're not having to deal with wind chills at this hour. Sault Ste. Marie was much warmer yesterday and last night than everywhere else. Temperatures have been holding pretty steady for almost 24 hours between about -6 and -4, which is what they are at right now. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, we will drop down to just -10, just a few degrees tonight with wind chills at -16, and the trend is warming up for tomorrow and into the weekend, and I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, the hearing on foreign election interference continues in Ottawa today. We'll bring you the highlights when your Thursday News Hour returns right after this.
CSIS continues to view hostile activities by foreign state actors as the most significant strategic threat